Remember that classes are like factories for creating instances. They allow us to group relevant data and methods. Class inheritance allows us to inherit methods and properties from a superclass. There are many details about when we should or shouldn't use class inheritance that I'm not going to really go into in this video. I'm just going to give you an idea of how it works. So basically, when we search for data or a method from an instance, then Python is first going to search inside of that instance to see if it's an instance variable. Then it's going to search inside of the class to see if that data or method belongs inside of that class. If this class now inherits from a superclass, then we have one more level up this chain to search. So we first search in the instance, and then in the class, and then in the superclass. So let's take this code as an example. Here we have a class person, which represents all people, and it's a superclass. Person has three methods: init, getAge, and str. Then we say that student is a subclass of person by defining this class student and saying that it inherits from person, meaning that it should have all of the methods and properties that person has and more. We specify that it's a subclass by putting person in parentheses here. Student has its own constructor, and it has a method study. Every student not only has name and year born, which it gets from the person class, but it also has an instance variable for knowledge, which calling student.study is going to increment. And then here I create an instance of student named Alice, whose name is Alice Smith and year born is 1990. Now, when we create Alice as a new student here, we pass in Alice Smith as name and 1990 as year born. And what that does is it calls the student constructor with name being Alice Smith and year born being 1990. Now, the student constructor manually calls the person constructor, which sets the instance variables for name to Alice Smith and year born to 1990. The student constructor also sets self.knowledge to 0, so Alice starts off with knowledge set to 0. So when we ask if Alice is a student here, print is instance Alice student, then we get true because Alice is a student. And if we ask if Alice is a person by calling is instance on Alice in person, then we also get true because Alice is not only a student but also a person. And because student inherits from the person class, then by definition, every student is going to be a person. Now, when we call alice.getAge, then Python is first going to search in the Alice instance to see if there's a getAge method here. It doesn't find one, so it goes up one level to student, sees if there's a getAge method in the student class. It doesn't find one, so it looks in the person class where it finally finds this getAge method. And so when we call this getAge method, then we return 2018 minus alice.yearborn, which is going to be 1990, in order to get 28. When we call alice.study, Python first looks for study inside of Alice, and it doesn't find it, but it does find study inside of the student class, so it calls this study method, which increments Alice's knowledge from 0 to 1. And now, when we print out alice.knowledge, then Python first searches in the instance, and it does find alice.knowledge here, and so this prints out 1. So that's a quick overview of class inheritance, which allows us to inherit methods and properties from a superclass. Again, there are many details about inheritance and when we should or shouldn't use it, and what we should split between the superclass and class that I'm not going to go into. But for now, we're just going to use class inheritance fairly lightly in this course.